Okay, so what we're doing is we are going to be following Danza's progress in her training. So this is her first official training session with me. She is a 10-year-old purebred Arabian mare that has been worked with a handful of times. From what I understood, she has been saddle broke and ridden a small handful of times, but it has been a while. So instead of throwing saddle on and finding out for myself, I'm going to start from ground zero and establish things that I want her to learn that are going to help her progress. No matter if we decide to have her as a lesson horse or a show horse, no matter what, these are things that she can take with her and she can learn. So my very, very first thing to establish with any of my horses is direction and personal space. Obviously, I'm not having a horrible time with personal space with this particular horse. She's actually very, very considerate as far as giving me my space. One problem I am having with her is that she's a little bit bullheaded. When I'm asking her to yield, she is pulling right through what I'm asking her to do. One thing to keep in mind is that as much as I am evaluating her, she is also evaluating me. So I'm trying to figure out how much pressure it's going to take for me to do something with her. And she is also trying to figure out how to get out of doing what I'm asking her to do. Which doesn't make her a bad horse. It makes her a very, very normal horse. Because if it's between working or grazing with your pasture buddies and doing whatever you want to do, you would definitely take the second option. So we can't totally blame her for wanting to run away and getting away from me and going to her pasture buddies that she's gotten really used to over the last couple weeks. Now, one thing that I am doing is I am not lunging her around to make her tired. Horses naturally have what we call a flight zone or a comfort zone. And when they are scared by something that they are not familiar with, they will run that particular distance, whatever they feel comfortable, or away from it to get away from it, and also to a place where they feel comfortable. So in her mind, she's obviously not comfortable with me, and she's not comfortable doing what I'm asking her to do. She is kind of throwing a temper tantrum, if you will, because she can't be with her friends, and that's totally normal. So the idea is not to get her exhausted. Horses that are tired, even though you can take them out in a round pen or a lunge line, and you can work them, they might be tired, but they always have that ability to not necessarily misbehave, but misunderstand what you're telling them. Just because your horse is tired doesn't mean they've learned anything. The fact that she does get a little bit relaxed towards the end of this video is more the fact that she has gotten more comfortable with me and my cues than the fact that she is tired. So another thing is I don't want to let her get very tired, and I'm letting her pick her speed. I'm not encouraging her to go faster. I'm not encouraging her to go slower. She is picking her own speed, what she feels comfortable doing right now. So again, I'm going to ask her to reverse. This seems to be her worst side, reversing. So I'm starting off kind of small because I want to see how much pressure it's going to take for me to get her to reverse. So obviously we can see it's a lot. And as she's going around, you can actually start seeing a slight change. You'll notice the circles are going to get kind of small. She's arching towards me. She's not trying to pull away. She's actually curious as to what I'm asking her to do. She's looking for that body language. You've noticed the last few times I've been asking her to turn, I am almost over exaggerating my body language. And that's more so she can pay attention. To me, my goal would be to be able to just shift my weight point possibly and vocalize by clicking or telling her what to do. But we all have to start somewhere. And because she was really not focused on me, I had to work that much harder to get her to focus. But you'll notice, yeah, a few minutes later, that circle is smaller, that ear is towards me. She's arching her body towards me. She's getting a little bit more comfortable. She's understanding that I'm just not going to chase after her. I'm actually asking her to do something. And she actually has to focus on me in order for her to do that, do the right thing. And horses naturally have that ability to want to do the correct thing. And that goes back to the fact that they are herd animals. So I'm going to kind of condense the turning around a little bit just to kind of see what we've got. You notice that I didn't have to use that much pressure. She's still a little confused here, but she's like, I got it. Very good. So I'm going to get ahead and just give her a little rub, letting her know she did well. So what I like to do is I will go back and forth between physical exercise and mental. I don't want her ever being afraid of any of the tools that I use, whether it be the handy stick, lunge whip, whatever. None of those things are there to hurt her. Those things are there to help me help her. And one of the things I like to establish off the bat is that she can still be responsive, but she doesn't have to be reactive. Big difference. So I'm going to come over and rub on both sides. This is more so to see how she's going to react to something touching her, especially after something like that. I've had some horses bolt forward or kick out, but you notice she's just very, very calm. She's looking at me, but just nothing. So the next thing I'm going to be doing, or doing here, is I'm actually taking the handy stick and I'm just smacking the ground. Not very hard, kind of like a soft, medium smack. And as you can see, she's very wanting to move away from it. She has her head up. She's skirting around it. She's not quite totally sure what to do, which, considering, is totally normal. One thing that I want her to understand about this particular exercise, and I want anybody watching to understand, is there is a difference between me smacking the ground here and smacking the ground when I'm asking her to reverse. So when I'm lunging her, she's going around me, is I'm actually using that momentum to push her forward. I don't want her to stop. Here, I'm actually standing in front of her head. The moment she stops, I'm going to reward her like you saw me do here. And pretty much all I'm doing is I'm just smacking the ground. I'm not pointing, I'm not giving her any more cues. All I'm doing is smacking the ground. And I'm going to come over here and smack the ground again because it's important to do both sides. So even though she flinched, she didn't move, I'm going to reward her for that. And then I'm going to start again just to make sure we have it down pat. Now, she's thinking about it. Now notice, in just a couple seconds here, that she starts moving. And I'm going to explain that. Remember, she's evaluating me as much as I'm evaluating her. So her thing is, since she's still trying to figure me out, am I doing the same thing on this side as I am the other side? So the fact that she moved away the second time versus just standing still. The first time I was on that side is perfectly normal. As soon as she stood still, I rewarded her and moved on. And I also like trying to use both sides of the brain. And that is where I am right here. So the other thing is too is establishing space. Now, the fact that she was moving around me so well, I didn't have to worry about that, but I still want to try to establish backing. I'm trying to figure out what works best for her. Some horses do really well with swinging the rope back or the handy stick back and forth. Some horses do better if you tap their cannon bone right below the knee, just ever so softly. And she seems to do better backing with tapping the bone. And what that's going to do is teach her when I'm asking her to back and I'm going back, that is her signal to back up no matter where I am. But I always like to start my horses from the ground with me standing in front of them. It's easier for them to understand. Now, you'll notice there's a bit of a change here. She's kind of going slow. She's looking at me. She's like, oh, we're doing this thing again. I thought we were developing this really close friendship bond where I didn't have to do any work. This kind of sucks. I got cheated. So right here, I'm going to ask her to reverse and see this way. She's like, hey, we kind of did this thing where I didn't have to move when last time you did that. So I started on the ground, but I ended up having to tap her shoulder very, very lightly just to encourage her to go the other direction. Obviously, I didn't beat her, nothing, because she didn't bolt away. She just moved off, kind of indignant almost. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stop her, I'm going to pat her, reward her for stopping, and then I'm going to ask her again. So you'll notice here my handy stick stays on the ground and increases in power, but you'll notice this time she moved off. I didn't have to touch her, and she's still pretty darn relaxed, which is really nice to see. And you'll notice the other directions she started out a walk, and this direction she's trotting both times I pushed her in this direction. That's totally normal because this first time she was kind of moving off, she was kind of relaxed, she didn't really want to, and now she's like, okay, I'm getting back to work, I'm going to go ahead and hustle here. I'd rather see a horse actually make an attempt to do what I want to do versus fighting me on it. And as we continue, I'll become more nitpicky about speeds and asking for walk, trot, canter, and then throw reversing in there. I'm not really too picky about that right now. I want to pick my battles. I don't want to overwhelm her. Which, no matter what age or breed of horse you're working with, there's always that possibility of kind of choking them with too much knowledge, and that's definitely not what I want to do with her. So you'll notice that I'm becoming a little less dramatic with my body language, but you'll also notice that she's responding a lot better to my body language. I'm not having to fight her as much. She's not pulling against me. She is actually taking the initiative to turn and face me. And see, what I liked about that little bobble there, and I don't know if you caught that, but I like the fact that she actually had the guts to actually question me, and you'll probably see that more next time. So I'm going to give her another physical break, and I'm going to go and take the handy stick, the rope part, and start by kind of throwing it over her shoulders, her legs, her front legs, and then I'm going to go back and work towards the middle. And I'm only going to have enough time to do one side on the video, but in real life, I did do both sides because it's important to do. And obviously, this does not bug her whatsoever. She's just kind of sitting there, which is really good. So I am very happy and pleased that this is our very first workout. And thank you guys so much for watching. And I hope to see you around for our second session.